See, to be honest, I feel like this stuff's like a virus. And it spreads and it affects everybody. I know you're worried about, the people telling you the information, but at the end of the day, you're listening to it.
To be honest, when talking about Linda, I start to feel a bit cold and a wee bit shaky inside. Maybe it's just an association with how she makes me feel, if that makes sense. And it's always been like that. We just didn't see eye to eye to things. And I think towards the end, she just didn't, there was like a level of rejection there. So in the sense that she didn't want me to be near her and stuff. So, that's what she wanted. That was what she wanted. So
she had a mental problem. I could see it. And I went and got advice about it. And I tried to get her to go and see somebody. But she was adequate that she had the problem. It was somebody else. Me. She was very vicious. And she treated me like a piece of dirt under her shoe.
She's a very scary person. Because of some of the things that she'd done, like even if you tried to be nice, it sort of turned really negative. And she would just sort of turn very quickly. You were scared in case whatever you said were used against you.
Whenever we were going out, there was wee things that I can see now. Whenever we just got married and before she just got married, there was wee things that I could see, but I never thought nothing of them. But further on into the marriage, then things started just getting worse. I would say it was all down to her dad, Billy. He was a bully, and he would have beat her, even when she was well into her 20s. Whenever we were just married, we went to the house for a cup of tea, and we were all talking away and chatting away and having a bit of fun the way you do. And Billy walked over, for what reason I don't know, and whispered in her ear, "You remember your place." That really stuck with me, so it did. Because he was just intimidating her. This just carried on and carried on and carried on. She only told me certain bits and pieces. Like whenever we were making plans for the wedding, she came in late because we were sitting outside in the car, and she went into the house and he was waiting on her coming in, and he beat the face off her. I went to see her the next day because we were going down to Belfast. She had a black eye, and the whole side of her face was all bruised. He knew that he could get away with intimidating her, and he carried on doing it.
You were expected just to sit there and be like a wee doll. She'll come into the kitchen and start shouting at you, for laughing too loud, for messing around, even though nothing's been broken, there's no damage. It's just you're being too loud for her.
When she was having her Sunday naps, and she used to lie on the sofa, and she used to wrap her hands around you, and then I sat at the edge or in between her legs, her legs were up the side, but they were cuffed inwards to the sofa, inwards, and we had to sit there the entire time she slept. If we even moved even a slight muscle, she would shove you, and you were made to lie there and just stare at the wall for hours.
Or there's loads of mini threats that are actually really big threats to a child. For example, wait till your father comes home. As a child, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get beaten here. I am going to get hiding.
We were in church. We were in one of the Sunday services, and I don't know why, but I was very, very young, so trying to sit a piece for an hour was not very easy if we didn't have something to sort of occupy us. And at one point during the service, obviously, whenever you're sitting on those seats in the church, there's books that sit in this little shelf thing in front of each chair. And I decided to tidy the books, and I put them all in their right slots. And I got threatened by her in the service very quietly, and was like, "Don't do that. You're going to hear it whenever you get home," basically. So when we got home, we all walked through the door, and I ran up the stairs and hid under the bed. Rachel and Rebecca were in the bedroom as well, and they were like sorting themselves out, obviously, from being back at church and stuff. And there was me. I was just watching their seat. She was very, very angry with me, to say the least. That I was all petrified that I had to hide under the bed is the one thing that I just,
My main negative memory of her would be sitting in my bedroom and waiting for her. You could hear her coming up the stairs, and you were just waiting, if that makes sense. Because there are certain ways she could walk up the stairs, and you knew she was coming for you. Like, you were just waiting for it, and you were feeling that tense and that scared. It's just like, I have to do my homework. Do you know what I mean? Look busy. Don't do anything that will cause a reaction. And I think a lot of that was, psychological, to try to control us.
See, out of all the different types of abuse, I think mental abuse is the worst, because it impacts things that you don't even realise and causes problems that you don't even know is there until you're so deep in it. Psychological stuff is a lot more difficult to heal from than physical. It's unreal how stuff like that affects you, even if you try to bury it, whether it comes out in a panic attack or anxiety or depression. It's scary how the mental stuff causes physical things. I still find that hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah, like whenever we were living in the house, we had no doors. The girls had no doors. Because the three of us shared a room, we had no door. That's where part of that pain comes from. You didn't have a door to close, and you knew she was coming. If you know what I mean? And you could see her coming up the stairs.
There was one time when we were still living in that house. You were sitting on the stairs, and I don't even remember what happened. It was just, all I remember was that she slapped you on the leg when we were sitting on the stairs because she lost her temper.
Like, Kathy came in, was explaining what happened, and she was angry. Like, I'd never seen Kathleen see red, but she's seen red, and was explaining to Dad and to me, what was going on, what happened, and the red mark, and how red it was. We were trying to write up letters and stuff to the courts about what was going on, we were trying to go from a different angle to try and help get you to stay with us full time. My counsellor was talking to her boss about your safety and the safety of Kathleen, to try and make sure that you were safe, because that was my biggest concern at that time, was your safety.
Well, the doors weren't locked. The doors were closed. The whole thing with the darkness and thing, and how I remember the house, was that there was a whole thing with, there were certain places we were not allowed to go into. That whole thing of not being able to enter into places like open doors, cupboards, or grab a book from a bookshelf, or, we weren't allowed to touch anything like photos and photo albums. We were not they were locked away in a drawer. You weren't allowed to go touch them. And that was with basically everything. We had to sit there and be still. The thing is, she got custody of this house, and this huge, humongous house, and she was the only one that was living in it. So, it was a very big house to be living in by yourself.